You're listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn, where you'll find uplifting and practical advice for everyday living, creative inspiration for do-it-yourself projects, and recommendations for books and resources that will encourage you to embrace your life repurposed. I'm your host, Michelle Rayburn.
Welcome to episode number 18 of Life Repurposed. Thank you so much for joining me. Today I come to you from my own backyard out in rural Wisconsin, and I decided that I wanted to be outside today for this episode because I've never done that before, number one. Number two, because it really fits along with what I want to talk about with you today. So if you are coming on just the podcast and you're not seeing the video, you're not on the Facebook video, you're not looking on YouTube, I'm in the backyard and true to my repurposing and the trash treasure stuff that I love. There is an old door behind me and it just sits there as a shade in the backyard. It's not there for any other purpose other than to just look kind of cool and be some shade next to the sofa. So sitting outside here today, there's a little bit of noise from traffic out on the highway that's nearby, and also some birds chirping in the background. Every so often, if I listen carefully, we can hear them. And there's a cicada that has been singing on and off this afternoon. So that cicada might join in and give us a little bit of entertainment in the background. So if you hear those noises, that's what it is. This afternoon, I decided to come outside because I wanted to talk about where I've been for the last month and why wasn't there a new episode of the Life Repurposed podcast in the month of August. That's because life got super crazy, and I decided that I just needed to let something go. So I did my client work, I did the projects that had to be done, I went on a family reunion vacation, so that was important to me, but I just had to take a break because I couldn't get it all done, and I was making myself crazy. I wasn't taking time off, especially towards the end of July as I was getting ready for this trip that I was taking. I wasn't taking days off. I was spending my weekends even working. I'd come home from church on Sunday afternoon and work on some projects, and I wasn't getting enough sleep. I'm getting out of breath just thinking about it. So I had to take a break. Now, why am I sharing this with you? Because I have a feeling there are some of you that are in my shoes, who are working your full-time job, who are trying to do some projects and reach some goals that you really wanted to achieve, who are trying to keep your family going, keep everybody fed. You've probably launched them back to school now. There's just a lot going on in your life, and sometimes you have to let something go. You don't know what it is. Everything seems important. And sometimes what you let go is your own sleep and your own relaxation. I have discovered in my life that that is the worst thing to do, and yet I do it over and over. So I want to tell you that I'm with you on this. I have not perfected the art of taking a break and resting. I'm still learning to find balance. And so as we walk this together, you're probably learning to find some balance in your life too. So as we think about inspired life, I want you to think about what happens when you don't take a break. For me, I get snappy because I'm tired and because I feel like there's no margin. I sometimes get confused, not like forgetful. Well, I do get forgetful, but not confused in a way that I would need to see a doctor or anything like that, but confused in that I don't know what my next step should be. Should it be this? Should it be that? My mind is like all over the place, and I'm trying to guess, like, what's my priority? What has to be done? Wait, did I do that? No, I didn't do that. I forgot that appointment. All those things, that confusion that comes with it is really stressful, and it doesn't feel great. So along with that comes the feeling of being overwhelmed and just feeling like there's too much to do and not enough time to do it. Now, if this is your everyday state of being, I'm with you. I understand how that goes, and I've talked in the podcast before about saying no and learning how to let some things go. That's all important. But today we're going to talk about what to do when we need to take a break. So one of the things that I've done in the last couple of weeks that has been an ongoing commitment that I want to make to myself and also to my relationship with my husband is taking a Sabbath. Sabbath is a term that comes from the Bible. It talks in the Bible about working 6 days and then resting on the seventh day, which was called a Sabbath day. And this was something that even God did when He created the world. He took a break on the seventh day. He rested and He said, "It is good." And He gave us instructions in the Bible to take a break once a week and to just step away from our everyday tasks and sometimes say, it is good. It really is good. So as we think about inspiration, and this is the part of the podcast where I talk about inspired life, I'm inspired to figure out how it can make a difference for me when I step away and when I take that Sabbath time. And in Life Repurposed, I'm going to talk about some practical things in the next section of this podcast about, how can we do that and what can we do. But right now I want to talk about the why. Why is it so important? Well, when I'm overwhelmed and there's too much going on in my life, I don't have the capacity to take on one more thing. I sometimes don't have the capacity to do the things that I need to do them well. And so what happens is not only does my mental capacity start to decrease, but my emotions and my physical, and I'm tired and exhausted, and all those things go along with it. So the why behind a Sabbath is that sometimes we just need to have a break. So my husband and I had a talk a couple weeks ago about what can we do that would help to improve this margin in our lives. One of the things we've been doing on Sunday nights for the last 3 years is leading a Bible study. People from our church come over, and we've been leading that Bible study. And we had made this commitment that if we're going to put that on Sundays, then what we're going to do is we're going to take a day off during the week together and make that our time together. We're going to have a different Sabbath. And the reason that having a Bible study on a Sunday doesn't feel like a rest is that you have to get the house cleaned, and you have to make some snacks, and you have to prepare the lesson, and all those things that go along with it. Well, I'm here to tell you that honestly, finding another day did not happen. It just didn't. We just ended up packing those other days full. There's something about the weekend and about Sunday where we used to find a little bit more downtime on that day than we could on other days. So we talked about it, and we decided that if we were going to still host this Bible study, it was going to have to be on a weeknight, and we would find another day. And we're still working on that. We're trying to figure out where we're going to put it in. But the commitment right now is that we are going to take those Sunday evenings, those Sunday afternoons, and we are going to use that as time for each of us to rest and rejuvenate. Now, my husband sometimes has to work until Sunday afternoon, and that's okay. When he gets off work, then that's when we can take a nap or we can go for a walk, and I'll talk about that, like I said, in just a minute. But we've discovered that we need to do it. So I experimented a little bit in the last couple of weeks, and on the last couple of Sundays, I just took the day after I got home from church, made a snack, something kind of simple for lunch, not the big Sunday dinner that I grew up eating as a kid. And I got out a book. I came out here on the back deck, laid down on the outdoor sofa that I have, and took a little rest after I read for a while. Took some time to watch a movie because I enjoy doing that. What I decided was I was not going to open my laptop. So I had my phone, and I could play around on social media because sometimes it's fun to just catch up a little bit and see what other people are doing. But I did not open my laptop, because if I open an email on my laptop, it means I'm going to sit and type out a long reply. And when it comes to work-related things, I just didn't want to see those emails on a Sunday, so I didn't. And what I've discovered in the last couple of weeks of just experimenting with that is that it made a difference in my mindset going into the week. I have felt a lot more rested, a lot more refreshed and relaxed, even though the to-do list did not change at all. I need that margin. So coming up in our next section in Life Repurposed, I'm going to give you some ideas for what you can do if you need to take a rest. So for Life Repurposed, I want to talk about change, because that's really what repurposed is. It's changing something. So if you need to find some more margin, you need to take a Sabbath, or if you want to call it a rest, or whatever you want to call it, what do you do with that time? Well, when I was a kid, Sundays were set aside for church and napping and reading, and that was about it. And so I had a different understanding of what a Sabbath is. And now, as I've kind of worked into it a little bit and figured out what works in my own life, I've realized that a Sabbath doesn't always have to be just resting or just sleeping. Sometimes that is exactly what my body needs, and so I need to take a nap or rest on a Sunday, or whatever day you decide is your Sabbath that you're going to take your rest. Sometimes it's physical. Other times, though, it is actually just a break from something else. And maybe something physical sounds really good, like going for a hike with my husband. We live just up the road from a state park where there are some great trails that we can take, and sometimes that's what I need, to get out in nature and just be inspired and refreshed. Sometimes it is to watch a movie. Sometimes it's to unplug from devices, maybe not use my phone or my computer at all. Sometimes it's to read a book for fun. Sometimes it's to read my Bible. Sometimes it is to visit with friends or write letters. Whatever it is, it's something that nurtures my soul in a way that my everyday life does not. The chaos of going from one thing to another thing to another thing. Now, I did find a blog post that I'm going to share in the show notes. If you go to michellerayburn.com/18, which is just the number of this episode, I have a blog post that is essentially the show notes that goes along with this, where I give you some of the links to the things I talk about. So there is a blog post that I'm going to share on there that is from Katie Bennett, where she has 50 ways to have a Sabbath, and I think they're really good. They're talking about active things, unplugging, creative things, restorative things. She's got them really nicely grouped in a list, and so I'll just link to that so you can see that article, because I found that one helpful with just finding some ideas of like what are some of the things that I can do that would help me to just take a break from everyday life. So whatever you do, whether it's coloring or painting or hobbies, or whether it's being totally quiet and going somewhere where you don't talk to anybody, or listening to music, or whatever you do, I want you to find something, I'm just encouraging you to find something that you feel like restores and nurtures you, that brings you to a place of quiet and peace where you are ready to tackle the week and move on with the rest of your life, because you've had this little break. It's like a little oasis in the middle of your week, and then on to the next thing. So as I commit to taking regular Sabbaths, taking that time of rest and taking time off, I'm encouraging you to try that too. And maybe it means letting go of something and saying no, whatever it is. I just encourage you to try it, experiment with it, and see how it feels in your own life. Here's the objection that I know some of you are going to have. Some of you are going to think, if I can't even get my work done, I am not going to be able to take off an afternoon or a day or even an hour to invest in this time. I encourage you to try it, because what happens is when I do try this kind of thing, I've realized that the amount of mental focus I gain from doing it actually makes up for the time later, and so I'm actually more productive in the week after I've taken a rest. Okay, so that is all I'm going to share there. In the upcoming section, I'm going to tell you about some resources and some ideas that I think you would enjoy, and I'm also going to give you a sneak peek into what is coming up on some future episodes of the Life Repurposed podcast. Okay, so for some resources, I wanted to show you something. I am going to link to Gina's blog, but one of my Facebook friends, actually I've met her in person before, a writer friend, Gina Stinson has a blog, and she also puts a lot of things on Facebook. And one of the things she shared on her personal Facebook a long time ago that really caught my eye was writing a verse a day in a calendar, and then she would post these really cool pictures. It almost looked like a little scrapbook. And so I have this one that I received for review. I'm going to give you a link to it. It's a monthly planner, but it started in August because it's made kind of for the school year. So it's perfect for me because I didn't have to wait until January to go ahead and start using it. And what I love is it's just simply a skinny little calendar. It's really small. It is a month at a glance. So you can see that it's just month at a glance. It's not a planner as far as like places to write a long schedule or to-do list or anything like that. It's just a calendar. And so what I did in the month of August was just kind of following Gina's idea, was I wrote out a verse a day. So it's a Bible verse a day. And I wrote it out on the calendar, and now I've started the next month. I'm into September. And what's cool about this is I can look back and I can just see like, oh, this was just a 5-minute pause that I took in my day. So it's, instead of setting aside a whole chunk or a day for resting and for a Sabbath, this is something I did when I have what I call a quiet time in the morning, where I just get quiet with God, I read my Bible, and then to find a verse a day, I've been using the YouVersion Bible app. So I just look at what the verse of the day is that they have on there. And I just find it to be a daily inspiration. So this is one way to work a little tiny Sabbath into your day if you need to start with baby steps. So anyway, that is one idea for a resource. Another one is Get Away with God. This book is actually going to be featured on a podcast coming up soon. So I'm not going to say a whole lot about it. Other than that, I'm going to be interviewing the author, Letitia, and we're going to be talking about what it means to have a personal getaway. So like a whole weekend or a couple of days or a day or longer, whatever that is for you. And just looking at what that kind of a retreat can be for helping with your own personal Sabbath. So watch for that coming in October. There's the cicada. I can hear it singing right now. I think that's what it is. If it's not a cicada, leave me some comments and tell me what it is, because I've had people tell me that's a tree frog, and I know that's not a tree frog. I know what they sound like. Also coming up, just said I want to give you a sneak peek of what's coming up in the podcast. I'm going to be interviewing Courtney Ellis really soon, and we are going to be doing 2 episodes talking about her books. One is Uncluttered. This is Free Your Space, Free Your Schedule, Free Your Soul. I feel like this one's going to be awesome. I just got the book, so I'm reading it, and then we're going to be talking about it soon. And then her other book is called Almost Holy Mama, Life-Giving Spiritual Practices for Weary Parents. So this one also looks awesome. I can't wait to talk with Courtney a little bit more about that. Those are some resources that I think could promote some next steps into having some rest and Sabbath time in your life. So I have other ones as resources come to mind. I'll be sharing them on my Facebook page. So I encourage you to follow me on my author page on Facebook, or also at Michelle Rayburn on Instagram, because I do put up posts there, and sometimes we'll talk about resources there. And I also share some links on Twitter. So go ahead and find me on the social channels. Leave me a comment and tell me you heard about me on the podcast. I'd love to hear from you. The other thing that I would love to have you do is go to iTunes or Google Play or wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, or on YouTube if you like watching the videos, and go ahead and rate the podcast and leave a review. That helps other people to find it. So I encourage you to do that, because it just helps get the word out there and helps me to find more listeners, more people that I like to connect with. So I encourage you to do those steps. If you want to get the links I've talked about here directly to those resources, go ahead to michellerayburn.com/18. That's just the episode number, and I will have a blog post there for you to find some of those. So I'm really excited about what's coming up in the next couple of months. I didn't even give you all of the sneak previews, but I would love to hear from you if there are other topics that I have not covered and you're thinking, I just wish you would talk about that once. Go ahead and send me a direct message, and I will consider that topic, maybe even consider you as a guest if you are somebody who would like to talk about that topic. So I can't wait to hear from you. Have a good week, and I will be back shortly, a couple weeks, with the next episode.
You've been listening to Life Repurposed with Michelle Rayburn. Check out tips, resources, and inspiration at michellerayburn.com.